I don't know if you know what Nero gum is, but I think they're from the same company and they're like caffeinated mints. And then I got this.
I just gonna shoot slower than my fucking asshole. Oh.
What's up, guys? It's that time of the year. The Weasel Awards, the best moments of 2025, and it was excellent, dude. So many memories from amazing events delivering with electrifying knockouts that got everyone in the arena and at home on their feet. Rare submission techniques, even in championship fights. Unexpected champions. Startling upsets. Zestiness proving to be the best base for MMA, and the Unks. The Unks carried us through 2025 with huge upset wins and impressive performances when so many counted them out. They were such a defining part of the year and even led to some GOAT dethroning moments, notably in the featherweight and bantamweight divisions, as the long-standing GOATs, Jose Aldo and Dominic Cruz, have finally been surpassed by Alexander Volkanovski and Merab Dvalishvili, respectively. There's still some people that are going to disagree with that, but I think it's mostly agreed upon at this point that Aldo's been dethroned due to Volkanovski's better competition, and he has a lot of title wins now, so I don't think it's too controversial to say that Volk has surpassed Aldo. As a diehard Aldo fan, I have to admit it as well, and I think Merab has done more than enough to dethrone Dominic Cruz. But I digress. What better way to start the Weasel Awards than starting with the debut of the year? Who had their best first UFC fight in 2025? Well, the first nominee, debuting with a one-punch KO of Anshul Jubli, Pakistan's favorite fighter, Quillan Selkill. The second nominee debuted with the destruction of the great Jose Medina, showing promising skill and discipline, Lil Ngannou himself, Atabak Gauthier, who I think is going to go really far in this middleweight division. The third nominee being a construction worker who tenderized Cameron Simon, made his head do a 360 with that signature right hook, and that being Malcolm Wellmaker. The fourth nominee being his inspector, deconstructing Malcolm Wellmaker's face, ending the feud on the construction site, and proving to be the toughest OSHA inspector in the world, Ethan Ewing. And the final nominee, dominating and submitting the veteran Neil Magny, the former Bellator champion Yaroslav Amosov. But the winner of the best debut of the year, I think, goes to Ethan Ewing, putting hands on Wellmaker for 3 rounds, winning a decision on 2 days' notice, getting one of the biggest upsets of the year as well with that win. He's pretty violent for a safety guy, and a lot better performances to come from Ethan Ewing, man. But from that, we go to the comeback of the year, who was down but not out, and by some aspect, either it was persistence, determination, just toughness, found his way to bounce back and secure the win. And for the first nominee, he was eating slugs to the face for the first 2 rounds, down 2, in a 3-round fight, somehow withstanding the shots that would knock out any light heavyweight in the world, and never faltered, continued to move forward, and eventually broke his opponent as Yuri Prohaska came back in the 3rd round with unyielding pressure and knocked Khalil Roundtree out, face planting him with a left hook. And for the second nominee, he got dropped by a fast right hand, taking overwhelming punishment against the fence. Uses veteran kickboxing experience to patiently wait for the perfect counter opening, as Cesar Almeida landed the perfect left hook to knock Abdul Razak Al Hassan out. All happened in the 1st round too. Abdul is always part of a do or die situation. And for the 3rd nominee, he was rocked, mouthpiece blasted out, and continued to throw shots, hurting his opponent as well, knocking their mouthpiece out. But Cody Brundage happened to win the slugfest as he knocked Julian Marquez out. And for the 4th nominee, he was beaten and battered in the 1st, dropped multiple times by a seemingly much bigger opponent, and it looked like everything was doom and gloom for Jared Cannonier until he used his veteran experience to find his way back into the fight as Gregory Rodriguez started to gas out, and Cannonier proceeded to beat him in every single round afterward, getting the win in persistent fashion. And finally, the 5th nominee. She was head kicked. I thought live that she was knocked out. I don't know how she took the shot, but Shauna Bannon somehow took a shin to the face and came back with an armbar victory against Pooja Tomar. You don't see a lot of submissions like that in the UFC anymore, but nothing was as emphatic as Yuri Prohaska coming back and defeating Khalil Roundtree. The guy was down 2 rounds. He took so much damage, but still is upscaling Alex Pereira with every performance, as nobody else is able to finish this guy in the UFC. Roundtree hit him with everything he had with all of his power that dropped or knocked out so many opponents before, but he wasn't able to get that result against Yuri, and Yuri still got that win in the 3rd round. I mean, Khalil is showing to be like one of the best 2-round fighters in light heavyweight. Yuri's tapping into some like mysticism that's keeping him in these fights, and only the shaman magic of Alex Pereira is able to counteract that. So Yuri Prohaska's comeback win against Khalil Roundtree is the winner. But instead of speaking about whole fights, let's talk about the best round in MMA. What was the single best round of action for the entire year? The first nominee being Yuri Prohaska and Khalil Roundtree throwing blows in the 3rd round, and then Yuri getting that comeback win. The second nominee was a technical brawl between Joshua Van and Brandon Royval in the 3rd round, and that was the round that Van was able to drop him and win the fight ultimately from that. Very close round up until that moment. The 3rd nominee being Nazim Sadikov and Nicholas Mata throwing down in the 1st round. Hurt him pretty badly with a barrage of body shots. He threw 82 significant strikes in the 1st round alone. Nazim returned with 63 of his own. That's like more than Leon Edwards throws in an entire fight. Mata drops Nazim, looks like he's going to finish the fight. He tried to withstand all the shots, but they're way too overwhelming. And then Nazim comes back with combinations of his own, even implementing some kicks, getting respect from Mata. And we knew in that moment we were in for a great fight, dude. But that 1st round was definitely one of the best rounds of the year, if not the best. But the 4th nominee was the 5th round between JDM and Bilal Muhammad. In such an underrated fight, we had a extremely underrated round. Bilal landed a lot of good shots, and JDM returned with his own, even hurting Bilal with that immaculate combination, angling off for that left hand that sent Bilal stumbling on the back foot, and the killer instinct kicked in for JDM trying to finish off the fight. Both guys landed some great shots in the round. It was potentially the best championship round of the entire year. But finally, the 5th nominee was the bar brawl between Ibo Aslan and Ivo Baryanevsky, exchanging power punches, eliminating each other's brain cells for the ultimate prize of a bag of popcorn and a nickel, buried deep into the prelims. Both guys dropping each other, hurt each other multiple times throughout until Ivo got the better of Ibo and knocked him out. And that's the winner. I think that definitely deserves to be the round of the year, the 1st round of Ivo versus Ibo. And from there we go to the best short notice win of the year. We're going to factor in like the length of time they had to prepare for the fight, as well as the performance itself. And the first nominee being Joshua Van stepping up on 19 days notice to fight Brandon Royval and getting the win in what was one of the best fights of the entire year. But we do have to also note that it was 3 weeks after his previous fight that he stepped up. So he wasn't completely out of shape. He was coming off of one training camp into another. The second nominee being Brendan Allen, stepping up on about a month's notice to fight Reinier de Ridder and defeats him in impressive fashion. He was a big underdog going into it, and that win alone drew a big, bold line on where the elites begin amongst the rankings, considering all the guys who beat Allen are now ranked above him. Strickland, Hernandez, and Imavov. That win defined the middleweight division, honestly, with distinguishing who is the elite and who isn't. The third nominee being Ethan Ewing stepping off the construction site on 2 days' notice to defeat Malcolm Wellmaker. He really had no time to prepare for the fight other than just making the weight, in which he did successfully, but he had no game plan. He went in there and relied on his pure skills to win the fight, and he did. The fourth nominee being Waldo Cortez Acosta, stepping up on only 3 days' notice, risking his ranking against a lower-ranked guy, ending the goated run of Shamil Gaziev, dude, with one single right hand, drops him. It was such a mismatch, bro. It was so bad. And that topped his year of 5 total fights. This guy was just fighting nonstop, man. He became like one of the main characters of 2025. Great to see, especially a heavyweight, fight that often. But the final one being Sean